Okay, my dudes, we are live. This is a very sad, a very big day. Our favorite running back in Dynasty, our running back 4 overall in Dynasty, a running back that I had in almost 40% of my Dynasty leagues, torn Achilles. Now, with the torn Achilles, this is not an ACL. This is not an MCL. This is really not a high ankle sprain. No, it is, I would argue, the most significant injury a running back can suffer in football. I mean, literally a third of the running backs that suffer this injury never play football again. Now, keep in mind, a lot of those running backs aren't of the same caliber as Cam Akers, so teams are a lot more willing to move on from them. So for that reason, I think that Akers, yes, of course he's going to be playing again. But at the same time, we don't know exactly what he's going to look like. We don't know when we are going to see him. Now, Marlon Mack suffered the same injury last year, and we have yet to see Marlon Mack on the field. But reports are saying that his recovery went well. And yeah, what we are going to be doing here is not necessarily sitting here talking about Cam Akers, talking about his dynasty value. We're going to be getting a mock draft out. We are going to be showing you exactly what people are thinking about Cam Akers, exactly what people are thinking about Daryl Henderson, and how this changes the entire running back landscape, because I'm going to predict that you're most likely having running backs move up the draft board here. So yeah, let me pull up the live chat real quick. And of course, guys, I'm sure y'all know by now, if you want to hop in this mock draft, just go over there, shoot me a DM on Patreon. I'll get you that link to join the draft ASAP. And also, we already have like 20 likes in this live stream. We've been live for a minute now. Thank you so much for everybody that always comes out to the videos, the live streams right away. Premier Gang, showing love with that like button. Okay, so let me minimize the chat actually, and let me run over to Patreon, because I'm sure that we have some people that have already sent us that Patreon DM. So I want to make sure that they are getting in this mock draft. And yeah, I mean, honestly, this is not going to be fun. I'm going to be completely honest. This is probably going to be sad. I lost. I don't want to make it about me, obviously, because Cam Akers had a way worse day than I did, but I lost a lot of money with Cam Akers going down for the season. Y'all know that I invest literally almost every single penny of my name in redraft and dynasty leagues every year. So this is a significant blow. Okay, so let me go over there real quick and grab this link for people DMing me on Patreon. And yeah, we should be able to get this going fast. We've been filling these through Patreon in literally like 30 seconds. So if I pull up, okay, yeah, we have a bajillion DMs on Patreon. I am sorry that not everybody is going to be able to get in. I am going to send out the link to everybody in order with how y'all DM me. I'm very sorry that I'm sorry, guys. Usually everybody who DMs me gets in the mock draft 100% of the time, but this time it's not going to happen. I think we have probably 15 DMs here, so there are going to be 2 or 3 people that were not able. But I am going through and I'm DMing in order that I actually got them on Patreon. Okay, so let's get this out. And I'm going to be drafting from the 108 in this league. Now, usually I go 106, 107, just to be directly in the middle. But the reason for that is just because I like to be in the middle, and that it makes a much more appealing stream. Okay. Because I don't have to sit there and make a pick, then wait 20, 21 picks before I'm back up on the clock. Okay, so I sent out a link to everybody that DM'd me, but I'm telling you right now, if you did not click that link fast enough, you probably aren't going to get it. And I maybe sent out, honestly, even more than 15 links. We probably sent out 20, to be completely honest. Okay, and also, guys, if there's anything wrong with the stream, please let me know ASAP. And yeah, in the video tomorrow, I'm actually going to be going through and I'm going to be highlighting some Cam Akers trades that we have seen. Okay, so we sent out all those links. Let me switch over the screen real quick. And this is going to be a Superflex tight end premium dynasty mock draft. We're going to be here at the 108. We're just waiting for one last person. And we got Wesley in here. And let's start it off. 60-second timer. Like I said, Superflex tight end premium. Mahomes going at the 101. Of course, that's what you were going to be expecting. Okay, so let's pull this over here. I'm sorry that I'm continuing to move that around. Okay, Josh Allen at the 102. I mean, you've been seeing those quarterbacks move up more recently in startup drafts where, I mean, CMC, we have actually seen him fall down to the 105, 106 before, which of course is fantastic value, but you have to keep in mind that those quarterbacks are going up in a multitude of leagues. So we really have to sit here and ask yourself, who has more dynasty value? Okay, JN says, I've been watching Noties like a hawk today. Only streamer already doing the mock. The grind don't stop. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the donation, of course. And yeah, I had to get a stream out here because I think that's the best way where we can actually go through and get a real sense of what his value actually is. So I will say that Cam Akers in a regular mock draft, he would have been in play for me at the 108. I would have possibly been considering Cam Akers. Like we already said, he's my dynasty running back 4. I'm extremely high on him, but now I don't think we consider him for a very, very long time. I don't necessarily know who's going to draft him first. Maybe it's us just because, he's my guy, but at the same time, I mean, that is a significant injury. Okay, Ben is saying, hey, Mason, I traded Kyle Pitts and Dwayne Eskridge for Javonte Williams and Jalen Waddle. No tight end premium. What are your thoughts? Love that trade, my man. Obviously, Kyle Pitts, an elite tight end prospect, but moving over to Javonte Williams isn't that big of a drop for me, and upgrading from Dwayne Eskridge to Jalen Waddle is massive. Okay, but JN is up on the clock here at the 106. Let's see where he decides to go. Usually, JN actually goes a little bit quarterback light, where you've seen him before in these mock drafts. Yeah, he takes Saquon Barkley. That's kind of what I assumed was going to happen. Usually he waits until like round 7, 8, 9 to go with his first quarterback. Okay, but Herbert goes. And as we are on the clock, I realize that we have not gotten any water in the past like 2 hours. So y'all may see me roll over and die on stream, but we are going to be taking Jonathan Taylor here at the 108. And if I start crying, guys, know that it's a combination of not only my dry throat, but at the same time, the pain that we have felt today. I mean, it's been a very, very bad day. Not what I want to be thinking about on the drive over to Florida. So it is what it is, but we're going to continue grinding. Now, Dak Prescott goes, so we have yet to see a single wide receiver go off the board. This is usually what you find in these super flex drafts, where you want to make sure you're getting those running backs on their rookie deals. You want to make sure you're getting the cornerstone assets at QB locked up in a super flex league, because that's going to be the position that dries out a lot earlier on. Okay, Leonardo says, would you do Josh Jacobs and Corey Davis for Cam Akers? My man, that is such a hard question. Honestly, I think what we're going to do possibly is I'm going to ignore all your Cam Akers questions. Maybe if there's a crazy one, I'll answer it. But I really want to just let it settle in a little bit, because I want to say Cam Akers in that instance. But a big problem is I know I have an emotional attachment. I know that it's going to be very hard for me to stay unbiased. So what I did do is I sent out a tweet saying, send me any real Daryl Henderson or Cam Akers trades that you've seen in Dynasty. For the video tomorrow, I'm going to be going through and I'm going to be breaking down the trades that people have sent me. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of see what the value ends up shaking up, because maybe we're a buyer, maybe we're a seller. I just don't know what the price tag is yet. And of course, we're going to continue to track that. Okay, so 30 likes on the live stream. Thank you so much, my dudes. Okay, Dylan says, ask in the Discord, but is it worth me making a trade for Henderson right now, or is it better to wait? I would not trade for Daryl Henderson right now. I think what you do is you wait until they bring in another running back, because they're 100% bringing another running back into this situation. I actually just recorded a video for our main fantasy football channel where I go through and I talk about my outlook on Daryl Henderson in 2021. And essentially what we were saying there is they're bringing someone in. Now, who they bring in, that's the main question, because we know they're not going into the season with Xavier Jones or any other undrafted free agent running back as the running back 2 on the roster. So if they bring in a guy like Le'Veon Bell, if they bring in a Todd Gurley, if they bring in an Adrian Peterson, we're not that worried. But we have seen historically that the Rams are very willing to go out there and trade future draft picks to bring in veteran players. So what's stopping them from going and trading for Kareem Hunt? What's stopping them from trading for James Robinson? What's stopping them from trading for Melvin Gordon? So right now, I want to be waiting it out with Daryl Henderson. I think that we stay away. If you have to pay a little bit more when we get to the season and we know what the role is going to look like, I'd be willing to pay this slight premium. But I think right now we kind of sit on our hands. Now, Derrick Henry at the 202. Hate that Derrick Henry selection with a passion. We go over to the running back position right now. I mean, you have DeAndre Swift, a running back that is still on his rookie deal, that has so much longer to go through. You have other guys like a J.K. Dobbins. You have Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'd prefer all those running backs over Derrick Henry, to be completely honest. Okay, NC Trick says, like you said earlier, would you still trade Cam Akers for DeAndre Swift? Yes, sir. I would trade Cam Akers for DeAndre Swift in a heartbeat. I mean, if you're playing in a Flock Patreon league with me and I have Cam Akers, offer me DeAndre Swift right now, and I promise you, I'm not going to counter asking for a third. I'm not going to counter asking for anything. I'm just going to hit that accept button. Okay, so after taking Jonathan Taylor at the 108, this is a spot where, I mean, in the past, I would probably consider going either Joe Burrow or Trey Lance. But honestly, what I think happens with this Cam Akers injury is you're going to find that the running back pool is probably going to dry up a lot quicker than what we found previously because you just took a running back 1 out of the mix and you really didn't replace him with a running back 1. You got a low-end running back 2 in Daryl Henderson. So for that reason, I think we actually go through and we actually draft a different running back. It's going to be down between DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I know CEH is further down the ADP board, but we are going to be taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 205. So we are going to be getting it in here. And like I said, I mean, maybe in past drafts, I would have decided to go quarterback, but I'm a lot less likely to like the options that we have at running back available to us at the 308, the 405, the 508. I mean, tight end could have been in consideration there as well. But no, I think we want to get our running backs early now, given the fact that, I mean, the entire board's going to be slightly pushed up. Aaron says, someone was confused why I picked Saquon and Akers at the 11-12 turn, and I guess he was on to something. My man, I can't imagine yesterday drafting Saquon Barkley and Cam Akers being on top of the planet. I mean, if I drafted Barkley and Akers in the same league, I'd be jumping up and down with excitement. But you get to today, and you're just kind of sitting there crying, eating some ice cream. That is fantasy football. Okay, JN calling us a jerk for deciding to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's see where he decides to go here at the 207. What's interesting is these teams on the turn, they both doubled up on running backs as well as we did. So it's possibly going to be creating some interesting builds later on in the draft when you're looking at these teams that go double quarterback versus double running back, seeing what happens. Now, JN goes out on a limb, takes Travis Etienne at the 207. I'm not saying I hate it, my man. I mean, I bet you if you look at my Dynasty rankings right now, Travis Etienne would be the pick. Now, that's if you're going running back. I think actually the value here most likely would have been going with the wide receiver over Etienne, maybe going with a tight end. But I could easily be swayed a different direction. Now, let's see how this shakes out, given the fact that we no longer have Cam Akers in the player pool to really choose from. So, yeah, I don't like the pick initially, even though I love Travis Etienne. Most of the time, we've been drafting him at the beginning of the 4th round in our Dynasty startups. But, yeah, I think that is just a little too early. Jayan says, I think that Travis Etienne is going to be a legit hack in fantasy. There's a big thing. Maybe James Robinson gets moved. If James Robinson gets moved, then all of a sudden, yeah, Travis Etienne becomes a league winner. But J.K. Dobbins going here at the 208. J.K. Dobbins actually ranked 1 spot ahead of Travis Etienne in my Dynasty rankings currently. And I think maybe just based on the possibility that James Robinson's traded, we can finally move up Travis Etienne above J.K. Dobbins in a PPR format. It's hard to do that, though, because we've already seen Dobbins be so efficient. But I do like Tan Solo going and stacking both Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins on the same team. That's very rarely am I going to say that I like stacking a quarterback with a running back. But if you're ever going to look for a combination, I think that's actually the one that you're looking to do. Okay, so highlight a new member of the flock over there on Patreon joined today up here with the 209. Let's see where he decides to go. But he took Kyler Murray in the at the 104. Honestly, that's exactly what I would have done. And he goes Javonte Williams. This is the highest I have seen Javonte Williams go in really any startup mock draft. Okay, this is crazy right now. I think we definitely prefer the elite tight ends over Javonte Williams. I definitely prefer getting one of these wide receivers at least, a Tyreek Hill, a Justin Jefferson, and A.J. Brown, a DK Metcalf, all over Javonte. Also, I would definitely rather have Trey Lance, Justin Fields, but maybe he likes all those options coming back to him in round 3, worried about a running back fall off. Now, Yield Fades gets the value of the draft in Trey Lance at the 210 to stack with Christian McCaffrey. Y'all know how high I am on Trey Lance. Love that selection. Someone saying Jake Funk to the moon. Oh, no, Jake Funk is probably going to the practice squad. That's where Jake Funk is probably going to go. Okay, so keep in mind, guys, that before today, Cam Akers would have been selected at this 1-2 turn. I mean, it definitely would have happened. I can guarantee you he wouldn't have made it past the 205. So let's see how far he falls. Joe Burrow all the way down there at the 211. I mean, Joe Burrow has actually been falling lately in fantasy drafts. I think it's because redraft players are coming in and they're really discounting Joe Burrow this upcoming season. I think it's because he really doesn't have the rushing production, but that's kind of been leaking over to Dynasty, where at the beginning of the offseason, you saw Joe Burrow consistently at the late 1st, early 2nd, but now I've actually been seeing him fall to the late 2nd on a multitude of occasions. Now, Jefferson finally going off the board as the wide receiver 1 to Tyron Lannister. Lannister has been in a bunch of these Patreon mock drafts before. Jayan says Donta Foreman season. I know this is Donta Foreman all over again. Okay, so let's see. It's going to be interesting. You double up on wide receiver here. Possibly take a tight end. I mean, like I said, guys, this is tight end premium. George Kittle at the 301. I love that value with George Kittle. A big thing is if you go to running back, I mean, Nick Chubb definitely going to be the best player available on the board right now, but he is more so a win now asset. So you scroll through the positions, you still have those 3 elite tight ends in Kelsey, Pitts, Waller. At wide receiver, you still have a bunch of wide receivers you can be looking at in Tyreek, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Davante Adams, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. Running back, you really have Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott. I want to say that's probably it in that tier, to be completely honest. And then wide receiver, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson. Jason says, where are you drafting Trey Lance in a redraft league? My man, I can get out my rankings right now. Jason, I know that you're on the Patreon. So literally, if you just go over real quick and you pull up Patreon and you go to our pinned post, I actually have my rankings posted. Let me switch this over to, let me pull Patreon on another screen real quick so I can just pull this up ASAP. But I can guarantee you that I am higher than consensus on Trey Lance. I mean, if you're following the rankings, you're going to be drafting Trey Lance a lot. A.J. Brown going as the wide receiver 2 here. Okay, so for quarterbacks in redraft, we currently have Trey Lance ranked as our quarterback 15, and this is for redraft. Keep in mind, this isn't Dynasty. Dynasty is a lot higher than that. We have him directly ahead of Justin Fields, Tua Tagovailoa, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, and Daniel Jones. And keep in mind, in a 1 quarterback redraft league, all you care about is upside. I mean, that's why I'm going to be significantly higher in Deshaun Watson as well, because if it's a 1 quarterback redraft league, who cares if he doesn't play? Cut him, stream the position. You're probably doing so anyway if you waited to draft your first quarterback at the quarterback 18. And we really only have Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, and Matthew Stafford ahead of Trey Lance in redraft leagues. Okay, so now we have a wide receiver run going here once you see the running backs and the quarterbacks dry up. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill. Definitely would have loved to see either one of A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf or really any of those 4 wide receivers falling to us at the 308 would have been very nice. Highlight says, I'm personally very high on Javonte Williams. I mean, maybe this is another case where you could see Melvin Gordon get traded out of Denver, and obviously that would give a significant bump up. So maybe it's justified because Javonte Williams would be, I want to say, an early 3rd round startup pick if you did have that trade. I still think at the 209, it's a little rich. I mean, I am almost positive you could have got Javonte Williams in the 3rd, but maybe you didn't necessarily want to take that risk. Okay, so Ron says, where do you think Daryl Henderson should go in the draft? Did I really just delete my rankings? Okay, I actually just made a video on this, and I updated my 2021 rankings. Keep in mind, this is for a redraft league. I have not had the chance to update our rankings for Dynasty, however, and our redraft rankings currently have Daryl Henderson as the running back 25, assuming they're bringing someone in. Of course, if they don't bring someone in, I'm going to slowly be moving Daryl Henderson up as we go through the closer to the season. But yeah, right now he's going to be running back 25. Okay, so CeeDee Lamb going at the 306. So JN starts very young, very talented. And now we are going to be up at the 308. And I think we have a couple different options here. Now, a big reason why we decided to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire is I'm honestly not too interested in any of the players in this range. Obviously, you love seeing Cam Akers. But, oh, what kind of report is this? Cam Akers likely out for the year, but not official. Cam Akers is out for the year. Don't think Cam Akers is coming back at all this season. I promise you that. Okay, so at wide receiver, you got Davante Adams, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Jamar Chase. So a bunch of guys that honestly kind of look the same to me. I think what we end up probably doing is possibly go tight end. No, I think what we can do is we can probably wait until we get a tight end on the way back of the 405. So Zeke goes. So I think we're fine. I think we're fine waiting on tight end just because there are some values we really like later on. Actually, no, I think we got to take the position. I'm not considering wide receiver here because it's such a flat tier. You go over to tight end, you really have Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller. That's about it. Running back, I'm not considering at all. Quarterback, you have a few guys that I'd like to see, but I think we can honestly continue to wait on the position. So here, let's go over to tight end. Let's take my highest ranked tight end in Dynasty, which is going to be Darren Waller. Now, like I said, guys, I said this at the beginning of the offseason. I said, if you took Kyle Pitts over Darren Waller, you were an idiot, you were a fish, and you had no idea what you were doing. Yes, we were wrong in saying that. If you take Kyle Pitts over Darren Waller today after the Julio Jones trade, after he projects to get a significant amount of targets his rookie season, I am fine with that. Personally, I'm still going to want Darren Waller, given the fact that you actually have him as a tight end that has an elite target potential in terms of going into year 3 at the tight end position. Keep in mind, Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson, they have played the same amount of years at the tight end position in the NFL so far. I mean, Darren Waller, I think, can step up to be the tight end 1 overall this upcoming season. Okay, Kit Kat says, does Akers still have value even though he's injured and hopes to reclaim the job next year? I mean, obviously he still has value. We're figuring out exactly what that value is right now in this mock draft, my man. Okay, so Justin Fields would have been my other pick we would have been considering at the 308. Like I said, Justin Fields in rookie drafts, extremely overvalued at the beginning of the offseason when he was going ahead of Trey Lance, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne in every single draft. I said that was horrible, but if you're getting him here at the 310, I actually really like that value on Justin Fields. I just want us to be realistic. I don't want to just assume that Justin Fields is in the same tier of Trevor Lawrence, even though no signs really point to that. Okay, guys, please go down there, drop a like on the live stream if you have yet to drop a like on it. We just passed 50 likes. Of course, that is massive. I don't see anybody else coming out here doing these real mock drafts right after news breaks. I promise you we're going to continue to do this as the offseason progresses. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you have not for whatever reason. That way you can come out to the beginning of the live streams when there are less people in the chat. You can come out to the video premieres where I just hang out in the live chat the entire time. And there are a lot less people out here, so I can answer almost every single one of your questions in the premieres. Okay, so Stephon Diggs at the 312. Okay, Spack says, Akers anywhere past the 10th round is worth the dice roll, but I wouldn't be rolling the dice personally. Man, if this is a dynasty format, you have to take Cam Akers way before the 10th round. I mean, I would be surprised if he falls anywhere close to that range. Okay, but now we have some more of these wide receivers going off the board. And this is why I decided to pass on wide receiver because, I mean, really at tight end and quarterback, we figured it was going to dry up relatively quickly. And at wide receiver, we pull up this tier. There's still a few guys that I would be interested in. Okay, and a big thing, if we're building stacks later on, really there are no stack candidates that I kind of like building with this team. Obviously, we don't have access to Patrick Mahomes here with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. With Carson Wentz, don't necessarily like his value at all, so not going to be looking to make that stack with Jonathan Taylor. And Derek Carr, just a quarterback 3 in Dynasty. Possibly we draft Derek Carr, but Darren Waller, a big reason you like him is just because he can command so many targets in that offense. Okay, so now let's go through. Switchblade says, still upset I couldn't get into the mock draft. My man, I am very sorry. We had more DMs requests on Patreon over there to get into this mock draft than we have had any mock draft probably in the history of us doing mock drafts, to be completely honest. I was very surprised when we pulled up Patreon. Okay, so Joe Mixon goes. Mixon is interesting here. Aaron Jones. Okay, yeah, I'm very happy we decided to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the second because that running back well definitely dried up and you were seeing teams go out there and reach on running back. And I'm going to do something I know a lot of people don't agree with, but if you look at his season last year, he just posted one of the best wide receiver seasons for fantasy of all time. It wasn't even close either. He crushed Michael Thomas in 2019. Nobody's talking about it. We are going to be going Davante Adams at the 405. Now, yes, we take the risk of Aaron Rodgers possibly not being in Green Bay. Now, in the case of Davante Adams, I am willing to take that risk, understanding that if Rodgers does stay, what we have the potential to is we have the potential to see the tight end 1 in fantasy, the wide receiver 1 in fantasy, and then also have 2 running back 1s on the same roster. So I really like taking Davante Adams in the middle of the 4th. I understand he's a little older. I understand that it's a risky pick, but I think the upside clearly is there for us to go that route. Okay, Julian says, when is the draft guide going to be out? The draft guide was supposed to be out at noon today, but given the fact that we had that Cam Akers injury, I mean, it's going to change things significantly. I mean, look at this Dynasty draft right now where these running backs are moving up. So what I want to do is tomorrow on the main fantasy football channel, I'm going to be doing a redraft mock draft. I'm also going to be hopping in some real drafts on the side just so I can kind of see how the draft functions because I need to figure out the updated rankings in terms of running backs and wide receivers throughout the draft because that's slightly going to change. I've already figured out where we have Daryl Henderson. Obviously, we've dropped Cam Akers all the way down, but to get that draft guide out, I want to really make sure we are 100% confident with it. So it's going to be out on the 25th. I'm sorry that we have to postpone it 5 days. It's literally complete, but I mean, news broke. And this wasn't news breaking of, you have just say Amari Cooper dealing with the toe injury. He may miss training camp. No, of course, if that's the news, we're just throwing the draft guide out there. But when a first round pick tears his Achilles, especially at a running back position that doesn't necessarily have the depth, we definitely have to make sure we're making those changes, because I want people to be confident in using that draft guide to draft. Now, we actually had some people going through and doing mock drafts with the draft guide and with our rankings, and I loved how the teams were turning out, and I want that same thing here. I don't want to be all of a sudden looking at teams that went wide receiver way too early. SPAC coming out with a massive donation. Thank you so much, my man. Says, scorching hot take. Chubb and Hunt gets dealt to the Rams before the deadline. Chubb is on the final year of the contract and will want to get paid. Hunt has 1 year left. If Brown struggle, they may make some moves. Okay, my man. I think that you're actually onto something with the possibility of Kareem Hunt getting traded to LA. But the big thing is, while Nick Chubb does only have 1 year left on his rookie deal, I can guarantee you that Nick Chubb is not playing a single down without a new contract. Nick Chubb is getting an extension before the season starts. And that's why I'm saying that there is a real chance that Kareem Hunt goes to LA. And that's why I actually have Daryl Henderson as our running back 25 in our redraft rankings, because we have to understand that the Rams are a team that we have seen time and time again. They're willing to trade future draft picks to bring in a running back. So I think there is a possibility that Hunt is on the move. Nick Chubb, on the other hand, Nick Chubb's 100% locked into Cleveland. I'd be very surprised if Chubb himself is traded. And what's going to suck so bad, I mean, it's literally going to be the worst thing that could ever happen to the flock, is after we go through in all offseason, talk about how bad the price is on Nick Chubb, talking about how he's so overvalued in redraft leagues that he shouldn't be a first round pick because Kareem Hunt's going to get the passing down usage. And we acknowledge the fact that Nick Chubb is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. I mean, if Kareem Hunt gets traded, all of a sudden Nick Chubb is possibly the running back 2 in fantasy. So it is going to be so bad if this week, all of a sudden, we go from having our running back 4 in Dynasty, Cam Akers, out for the season, and then our number 1, or just say a top 5 fade for us in fantasy, just turn into a league-winning player. I mean, this could be a very, very, very bad week if Kareem Hunt does get traded. Kevin says Rams trade a 2028, 2029, and 2023 first-round pick for Nick Chubb. Yeah, that would be pretty funny. Okay, also, guys, if you have not already, go down there, drop a like, get us over 100 likes on the live stream, please. Okay, so we go after our Davante Adams pick. We got Eckler, Godwin, McLaurin, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, I actually really like the value here. Another player that I criticized his Dynasty rookie draft price when all of a sudden he was going ahead of Najee Harris. He was going ahead of Travis Etienne. I thought that was horrendous. But if you're getting him here at the 409, I actually really like the price of Jamar Chase, my wide receiver 10 in Dynasty. I think that's a great value there at the 409. So now we have Watson at the 410, Montgomery at the 411, TJ Hawkinson at the 412. So that's really interesting that you have 2 of the top 5 tight ends going to the same team. Obviously, this is a tight end premium format, so they can start to. Now, Matthew Stafford going at the 501. Let me know what y'all think about this injury affecting Matthew Stafford. Do you think this is actually going to give him a bump up, given the fact that you're going to expect this team to skew a little more pass happy? Maybe this gives him a small bump down, given the fact that maybe they can convert less first downs. Now, I really don't know. That's why I'm asking you, because I've not had a chance to dive into what we're going to be changing with the projections and where we should be going with Matthew Stafford's value. Okay, so this is interesting because I honestly think that this is the range where Cam Akers is, I don't want to say a value, but I would not be surprised to see Cam Akers get drafted right here, to be completely honest. So let's track it. We probably can't be drafting Cam Akers simply because we took both win now assets in Darren Waller and Davante Adams. Say if instead we went through and in the third round, we drafted Kyle Pitts instead of Darren Waller. And in the 4th round, we decided to draft Jamar Chase over Davante Adams. There, all of a sudden, I would definitely be considering Cam Akers, given the fact that we're not playing until 2022 anyway. But now that we have productive pieces right now that are going to continue to lower in dynasty value and we need to win right away, I think that Cam Akers possibly can't necessarily be on our draft board here. Okay, Kit Kat says, do you think Zach Wilson will succeed in New York or no? I mean, with Zach Wilson, I know a lot of people want to come out here and they want to say, oh, I'm a quarterback scout guru. I'm 100% going to give you the right answer. I simply don't know here with Zach Wilson. Okay, but Cam Akers goes at the 504 to highlight. My man, I know you're in the chat. Give me your thoughts on the selection. Highlight, like I said, a new member of the Flock Patreon. Happy to have you in. Happy to see you going out there, being aggressive. Cam Akers at the 504. Now, this is ahead of Josh Jacobs, ahead of Miles Sanders at the running back position. Also, Chris Carson, Kareem Hunt. So, yeah, I think really the only running backs that I possibly would have considered taking over Cam Akers here would have been Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders. I don't know the right answer. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm 100% right in thinking that Jacobs and Sanders should have gone over Cam Akers, but that is definitely an interesting selection. So, Spack is saying, wow, way too early for me. Julian said, best channel out there. Started watching your channel in the beginning of last season. Thank you so much. I definitely recognize your little, like, it looks like an explosion profile pic from the live streams on the main channel last season. Okay, so it looks like people are saying can't get on board with the selection of Cam Akers. Will says Akers good in the 5th round. So it looks like we actually have a split decision on what people think about that Cam Akers pick. Now, Rodgers at the 505 is sad to see because I was hoping we were going to get him at the 508 to complete that stack with Davante Adams. I thought that would have fit very nice. Okay, so it looks like, it looks like a lot of people are split on that Cam Akers selection. If you're watching this as a video later on, please go to the comment section, leave your opinion on what you think about Cam Akers at the 504, if you think it's a good value, if you think it's a reach. And also, while you're down there, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can actually come out in the live chat and talk with us directly and just follow along with the draft as it goes. Now, we are up on the clock at the 508, and if we go to the quarterback position, honestly, I think we need to take one here. So we decided to pass on quarterback until we got to this pick. And I think Ryan Tannehill is too good of a value to pass up on. While, yes, there are some wide receivers that are really intriguing, given the fact that this is a super flex league. I think we take Tannehill here. I think that we really don't have to stress about it too much because if we pass on Tannehill, we'll be in a spot where maybe we have to reach in the 7th, 8th round. I'm fine with the value getting him in the middle to the back half of the 5th round. So, yeah, we're going to take Tannehill there. Okay, so I saw that we had a question about the draft guide. Okay, so Calcium Oxide says, is the draft guide for redraft only or dynasty as well? Okay, so we have 2 separate draft guides. We have a rookie draft guide that's over 100 pages where I dive historically based on what numbers matter for these rookies coming into the NFL for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Then we break down all the relevant rookies that you're going to be drafting for dynasty leagues this year and where they stack up. So that's our dynasty draft guide. And then at the same time, the same exact place on Patreon, you can find our 2021 redraft guide. Maybe next offseason on Patreon, we commit to making a full-on dynasty draft guide for the offseason. But yeah, for now, we only have the Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide and we have the 2021 Redraft Guide. Okay, so Switchblade says, love the Tannehill pick. Brian says, that was my pick, damn. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy to see that we ended up getting Tannehill there at the 508. Allen Robinson at the 510. Tua Tagovailoa at the 511. And a big thing why we kind of had to go quarterback here is if you looked at both of these teams right here, neither one of them had a starting quarterback yet. So we could pretty much assume that if we decided to pass on the position, that we would be in a spot where we probably weren't going to be getting a quarterback for a good while because there were not going to be anybody left in those tiers. And that's really good with what Wes did here. Maybe he liked some of the running backs or the wide receivers over Tua Tagovailoa, but identifying that Brian does not have a quarterback yet, you really have to take one here at the 511 because he's going to have back-to-back picks at the 512 and the 601. Okay, Royal says, who do you like better in rookie drafts, Javonte or Travis Etienne? My man, Travis Etienne, no question about it. Travis Etienne, he was my running back 1 going into the NFL draft. And of course, since Najee Harris is just going to be so much more used in his offense, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if you actually have Najee Harris with over 300 touches. We had to move Najee over Etienne after the NFL draft. But yeah, Etienne going to be my guy over Javonte Williams. Okay, so Jayan says, I thought about Tannehill, but I thought there was going to be a wide receiver run. So let me see what wide receivers would possibly be available to you. And keep in mind, you have to start 3 wide receivers in this league, and you have 2 flex spots. So I think taking wide receiver in DJ Moore at the 506 is completely fine. So it's really going to depend on what wide receivers end up falling back to JN on how that pick looks with DJ Moore, because obviously no real quarterbacks are going to fall to him. Okay, so Mike Evans goes here at the 602. Okay, so Danny Quest says, do you still have Travis Etienne over Antonio Gibson? My man, they are literally neck and neck for me. I actually took Travis Etienne over Antonio Gibson in a Flock Patreon startup draft, I believe maybe 6 weeks ago. And a big reason for that is there was almost nobody last offseason in Dynasty that was as high on Antonio Gibson that we were. So we came away with Antonio Gibson in almost every single Dynasty startup or any single Dynasty redraft league that we had last offseason. So very similar to how we had Cam Akers across all our leagues, where we had him in almost 40% of them. Antonio Gibson, our percentage ownership was actually higher than that. So there was a startup where I decided to go Travis Etienne over Antonio Gibson. And I think that pick was totally justifiable if you look at the Travis Etienne profile. Now, no, if I was advising someone that had no ownership for either running back, I would probably be telling you to go with Antonio Gibson, but I think they are neck and neck. So this sucks, and it sucks real bad. I wanted T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk here at the 605. We don't have that luxury. And if we pull up the wide receiver position, there was a significant drop-off in tiers after the T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, and Mike Evans. So now we have a couple different options. I think there's going to be a drop-off in tier at Josh Jacobs. There's going to be one at Mark Andrews. And at the quarterback position, really, there's nobody I'm interested in. So the question is, do we take a third running back in Josh Jacobs that maybe doesn't have the receiving upside that you would want in a PPR format, given the contract that they gave to Kenyon Drake coming in for $11 million guaranteed? Or do we go Mark Andrews, flex one, given you're getting 1.5 points per reception for the tight end position? And I'm actually going to be drafting Mark Andrews here. And a big reason for this is if you look at Tyron Lannister right here, he decided to go George Kittle and TJ Hawkinson. So now there are two teams in the league that have 4 out of the top 6 tight ends, and in a tight end premium format where we're fine playing Mark Andrews in the flex spot. I think what this may end up doing is this may end up having to make teams reach a little bit on tight end later on, or maybe they take Noah Fant, maybe they take Dallas Goedert a round or two early, and it would be different if we had a player that I really liked and we were passing up on. But no, I think that we're actually fine with that selection of Mark Andrews there at the 605. It isn't fantastic, but I mean, we kind of got screwed here missing out on all of these picks. I would have loved to see Higgins, Ayuk, Evans, Wilson, Amari, Tua, or Allen Robinson. I would have been fine with any of those players falling back to us. Okay, thank you so much, my dudes. We just passed 100 likes on the live stream. Thank you, everybody, for going down there and dropping that like. And JN, what are you doing here? Taking Trey Sermon over Josh Jacobs, over Devonta Smith. My man, that is a very bad selection. There's no way that I can try to justify that. We go through, and of course I'm going to have to roast you here, my man. Jacobs, Carson, Hunt. I'm fine if you want to take him over Robinson, Gaskin, Rojo, Chase Edmonds, but those top 3 running backs easily over Trey Sermon. At wide receiver, Devonta Smith, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, you have a lot of other guys I'd prefer over Sermon. Tight end, Noah Fant in a tight end premium format. You had a couple starting quarterbacks still available to you. So, my man, I hate that Trey Sermon pick at the 607 there. Jordan says, I mean, Cam Akers in the 5th is awful, right? To be completely honest, in a dynasty format, I'm not going to say Cam Akers in the 5th is awful because he's a player I was drafting in the 1st round before the injury. So possibly I would consider having Miles Sanders and Josh Jacobs over Cam Akers at this point. But given we are so early on and trying to read about the injury, trying to figure out what the long-term play is going to be here, I don't necessarily want to say that it's a really bad pick. I think maybe it was a little too early, but I mean, Cam Akers maybe wouldn't have made it back to the 609. I definitely prefer the value of Josh Jacobs at the 610 over Cam Akers at the 504 though. Jayan says he doesn't care. Mostert's going to be on the IR by week 3. Hey, man, I believe you about Mostert, but still, even if Raheem Mostert got cut from the team this year, I am still not drafting Trey Sermon over Josh Jacobs. Okay, let's go through. Jordan says traded Will Fuller for Trey Sermon straight up in a dynasty league. Now, I love that value on Trey Sermon. If you're going to get Trey Sermon for Will Fuller, by all means, go ahead and get him. I just can't do it if you're taking Sermon in the middle of the 6th round. Now, guys, please roast me for my Mark Andrews selection here at the 605. I am happy to see that Noah Fant starts to go off the board here at the 611 because when you double up on elite tight ends, even in a tight end premium format, a big reason you're doing it is trying to create the demand for the position afterwards. And that's why we actually went out there and did that. We took him over Josh Jacobs, which probably would have been my pick if we did not decide to go with Mark Andrews, because we had Lannister over here who took the other one. So I think that these teams that don't have one, they're going to be in a tough spot in a little bit. Okay, Sean says, would you rather have Sermon or Akers in Dynasty? I would definitely prefer having Cam Akers. Maybe I'm a fish. Maybe I don't know enough about the Achilles injury. And like I said, I understand that 30% of NFL running backs that have suffered the injury before have not come back to play football, which of course is very concerning. But that stat is misleading given the fact that the majority of running backs in the NFL are day 3 guys that were never going to see the field to begin with. So when those players tear their Achilles, when those players see really any significant type of injury, of course, they're going to be a whole lot less likely to come back because they were on the fringe to begin with. So Cam Akers, I think you don't have to worry about him not coming back. I think you have to worry about him possibly losing out on his juice and not being the same running back when he does come back. Daryl Henderson at the 701. Okay, now Daryl Henderson, let me know what y'all think about this, because I really don't like this pick. If we pull it up, I understand that Henderson still is on his rookie contract. That's why I've actually been going through and loading up on him in Dynasty as a handcuff guy, because we went, okay, he's going to be a handcuff for the next few years. That's guaranteed. So at the 701, I think it is a little rich. Now, keep in mind, Lannister, this was his second running back. He has 2 quarterbacks in Mahomes, Stafford. He has an elite wide receiver in Jefferson. He has the 2 elite tight ends in a tight end premium format with Kittle, Hawkinson, and then I have both Hunt and Daryl Henderson. I don't know if we can get behind it, but please let me know what y'all think about that Daryl Henderson value at the 701. Royal says, got to be straight. The Mark Andrews over Javonte pick hurt me on a spiritual level. A big thing, man, is if you look at ADP, I obviously the chances are a lot lower now that I say this out loud on the stream when people in this draft are watching the stream. But if you go to ADP, there's a chance that Devonta Smith actually would have made it back to us. Now, I do see that he goes here at the 609, but there was literally a 0% chance that Mark Andrews made it back to us. Okay, Aaron says, got him at the 10:08 after news dropped today. Yes, sir. I remember seeing your DM on Patreon saying I'm on the 10:08, and obviously that news just broke, and you said that a lot of people were going out there and sending you offers. And a big thing that I want to point out here from Chilla is this Noah Fant selection at the 611. I really don't like it, because if you're looking at the board and you're going, okay, I kind of want Noah Fant, I kind of want Laviska Shenault, when you already know Lannister has decided to double dip on tight end and gets both Kittle and Hawkinson, I think at that point you can feel very safe about him not getting a third tight end. So I think I possibly would have waited until the 702, because who knows, maybe Chilla would have preferred having Kareem Hunt or Daryl Henderson instead of Noah Fant and was hoping one of them were going to fall back to him at the 702. I keep in mind, I do like Laviska Shenault in that range. I just want to say from a macro sense, I really think if you're picking at the end, you should be paying attention to what you actually have in terms of the players that are picking between your 2 selections. Okay, so people are saying Xavier Jones is a great late round flyer. Guys, to be completely honest, Xavier Jones, Otis Anderson, those players are nothing to me. I don't think either one of them are going to do anything. I think this team is way more likely to bring in another running back before either of them see anything that's useful. Of course, you can pick them up just in case an injury happens to a Daryl Henderson, but I think that counting on them doing anything or drafting them in a redraft would be a pretty big mistake. Okay, so Alfredo says, anyone have thoughts on this offer? Lamar, Gibson, and Deante Johnson for JT Higgins and Justin Fields. You want Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins, and Justin Fields, if I'm reading that correctly. Actually, that's a lot closer than I thought. I think that we would actually need to see the starting lineup requirements there. Okay, so Deante Johnson at the 704. Deante Johnson, that's another player we're going to be considerably lower on compared to consensus. I mean, I'm sure that if you pay attention to any other mock drafts, if you opt in drafts your own, Deante Johnson is probably going to be going here at the beginning of the 6th. Now, Chase Claypool at 705, that would have been my player that we would have been trying to go after at the 708. Great value there. And a big thing is we kind of have the flexibility to go anywhere we want here at the 708. Obviously, it's going to be very hard for us to take a tight end. I don't think we're considering really any of them anyway. But we can go wide receiver, we can go quarterback, we can go running back. So it really is just going to depend on the value that we see. Okay, so there are a few different players that I actually like with this selection. Okay, Kevin says, I still prefer Chark slightly over Shenault. I think ETN takes away from Shenault a bit. My man, I think that is literally like the best way that you can summarize the two wide receivers in your preference between the two. I mean, yeah, I think that I just 100% echo what Kevin said. Okay, Daniel Jones at the 706 by JN. My man, I don't mind you getting a quarterback, and I'm actually fine with Daniel Jones as a sleeper option, but of course, I have to find a way to make fun of your picks at all cost. So I think I would have preferred waiting until the 8th round to get a Daniel Jones. I know you are never going to take the Oklahoma Sooner Baker Mayfield, understandably. Now, Jerry Jeudy goes, and y'all know who we are drafting. Lock him in. Now, of course, if this was a real draft, maybe we kind of mix it up here. Maybe we decide to go with the Jalen Waddle. Maybe we decide to go with the DJ Chark. But no, when we're on the clock at the 708, when we see him as our potential wide receiver 2, when we see that he literally averaged a 1-point difference per game than Terry McLaurin last year at a younger age, and people are losing their minds thinking that he's just completely washed because of a media narrative with TikTok, which, yes, it's a problem. But you know who we're going with. Let's get our man Juju Smith-Schuster at the 708. Hopefully, he can find greener pastures next year through free agency. Hopefully, he finally pulls the trigger and just goes to Kansas City because that fit would be massive. So, yes, sir, y'all know we are going to be getting Juju. That will be a surprise to nobody. I really like this team so far where we have those 2 elite bell cow running backs. We have a potential wide receiver 1 overall in Davante Adams. We have 2 elite tight ends. We have... I just want to say Ryan Tannehill isn't the best quarterback room, but I'm fine with the value that we got him. Okay, so Baker going at the 709. Now, I'll say that if this is a 6-point passing touchdown league, I'm fine with Baker Mayfield, but y'all have already heard my rant on why Baker Mayfield is such a bad value in fantasy drafts. Essentially, a low passing volume offense, an offense that we know that Baker Mayfield's not going to be picking up any rushing equity in. So combine those two things. If you don't have access to passing volume, if you don't have access to rushing volume, well, you can be a very good NFL quarterback given the fact that you're kind of just a game manager and your team's going to run. I think at the end of the day, I mean, in fantasy, that doesn't make you really anything. Okay, so let's go through. Jordan says, I thought he signed an extension. He actually signed a 1-year deal for this upcoming season. If you're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster, he signed a 1-year, $8 million deal. He should be hitting free agency again next offseason, which honestly I like. I don't want him attached to Ben Roethlisberger for the foreseeable future. Now, our man, A.J. Dillon at the 710. Love A.J. Dillon. I do think that's a little too early for him considering the fact that you still have some of those starting quarterbacks available. Okay, so let's go through and oh my gosh, guys. Hopefully this draft starts to speed up because if I'm looking at my to-do list, I think we actually have 8 Dynasty teams that we have to make podcasts for on Patreon. So I'm going to be grinding after we get out of this live stream. I'm going to be probably spending the next 4 hours making podcasts breaking down Patreon Dynasty teams. Okay, so Carson Wentz at the 7-11. Yeah, when we're on the clock, I'm not going to be going through and just teasing Juju Smith-Schuster like we did last time. I think we figure out who we're taking beforehand. We draft them. We get this thing rolling. Okay, so Tom Brady at the 7-12 as his second quarterback. Now, if we go through and we pull up the draft board to see how many teams have yet to draft a second QB. So this is going to be significant in that if we have a guy that we like falling to us, I think we need to take him because both Dreamville and JN and Highlight, they all only have one quarterback. So if we end up passing on someone that we could be potentially considering here at the 805, I mean, there's a very small chance that they actually make it back to us. And based on the quarterbacks that are possibly going to be available at the 805 compared to the wide receivers, I think we probably made a very bad mistake. Yes, I'll be the first one to admit it. That Juju pick at the 708, that was horrendous. What we should have done is we should have sucked it up. We should have taken Baker Mayfield. I hate Baker Mayfield in fantasy, but that was the correct pick of that selection. Of course, we have to be completely transparent about this. So yeah, Baker Mayfield was the pick there at the 708. That was a bad selection of Juju Smith-Schuster. I could have gotten a wide receiver in a similar tier here at the 805, and we're not going to have access to any quarterbacks in that same tier. So that was a bad pick by me, and I really want to highlight where we went wrong so people don't think that's something they should be doing in the future. Okay, Daniel says Odell or Juju for Dynasty full PPR. I mean, they're going right next to each other in high-stakes redraft leagues. You throw in the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster is 24 years old compared to the fact that Odell Beckham Jr., I believe, is going to be 29 this season. I know that he came into that 2014 NFL draft class very young, but at the same time, I think he's about to be 29. So I clearly prefer Juju between the two. Juju's been more productive last year than Odell's been the past 2 seasons. So yeah, I'm going Juju. Okay, so Kenny Gallaudet here. So if we like a quarterback, we really need to take him. And the thing is, you have Ryan, Mac Jones, Sam Darnold, Derek Carr, Jameis Winston. I actually don't really like any of the quarterbacks available here. I would have really liked to see one of these wide receivers fall to us. And I think what we actually look to do is we take a wide receiver that I'm lower on compared to consensus, but I think once we get to this range, he's actually a decent draft pick. I think we actually take Cortland Sutton. We're going to be drafting him at the 805 as our wide receiver 3. This is our team so far. And with Sutton, the reason I'm lower on him compared to consensus is the fact that this is a wide receiver that his sophomore year, his second year in the NFL, he was a wide receiver 3 in fantasy on a points per game basis. Now, because he's an alpha, because he's a monstrous human, people just saw the plays he was making on the field and naturally assumed that he was much more productive than that, naturally assumed that he was much better in fantasy than that. But he's the perfect example of a player being better in the real life than a player in fantasy. And since then, I mean, he's torn his ACL. He's had Noah Fant and Jerry Jeudy come in for target competition. His quarterback play is some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL. But with Sutton, I mean, he obviously can go to a better team situation next year, given the fact that he only has 1 year left on that rookie contract. Okay, so Matt Ryan at the 806. I just have such a hard time taking Matt Ryan in a 4-point quarterback passing touchdown league. I mean, if you see the splits with Matt Ryan over the past few years with and without Julio Jones, he's a completely different quarterback. And you can make the argument that Kyle Pitts is going to step in, play that Julio Jones role. Maybe it's not going to be that bad of a fall off. But yeah, I think we have to pass on Ryan. Kupp would have been the other wide receiver we would have considered over Cortland Sutton. I just think that if Sutton's falling to the 8th round, I mean, that's a pick that we can make. Jesse says, glad you came around to my Baker selection. Yes, sir. I think that Baker selection was the correct pick. I think that Juju pick of ours in the middle of the 7th was a very bad one, considering the quarterback fall off that we were about to see. Kit Kat says, does Michael Carter have any long-term value? I mean, he was a 4th round draft pick. You look historically, and that tells us no. At the same time, we know that that team is very barren in its backfield. And a big thing with the Jets we need to focus in on is the fact that it's not like they're limited on draft picks over the next few years. So they could always go out there. They could always draft someone in the 2nd, someone in the 3rd next offseason, turn that into a committee. So with Michael Carter, yes, he has long-term value. Now, exactly what that value looks like, I can't give you an accurate answer, but I just want to highlight the fact that historically running backs that have his type of team investment aren't necessarily players that you can build a dynasty team around. And also, let me know what y'all think about this in the general chat. Please let me know what y'all think of Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Matthew Stafford, their fantasy value this upcoming year. Because obviously you can make the argument that the passing volume increases, but at the same time, maybe the efficiency of the offense goes down. So I have a hard time saying exactly what's going to happen. So please let me know your opinion if you have a good argument to be made on if you think that we should be raising up either Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp or Matthew Stafford or lowering them down. Let me know what your argument is. Okay, Kevin says, sold Ezekiel Elliott for a 2023 first and Cam Akers. Let's see what happens. Not a contender. Kevin, please go over to Twitter right now and reply to my recent tweet. I'm going to send out my Twitter with a screenshot of that trade so I can highlight it in the video tomorrow. After I get done with this live stream, I'm going to go through and I'm going to record a video tomorrow where I'm talking about real life dynasty trades that have included either Cam Akers or Daryl Henderson, talk about what side that I prefer. So please go look at that tweet that I've sent on Twitter. Send me a screenshot of that trade so I can include it in the video. Okay, so Ronald Jones, Curtis Samuel, Rashad Bateman. I really like that value with Rashad Bateman. And Yield Fates has decided to stick us the middle finger and draft 4 quarterbacks with Lance, Watson, Jalen Hurts, and Sam Darnold. Okay, so we go through, and there are honestly a few players that we do like to see in the middle of the 9th round here. How many rounds do we have left? Okay, we have 6 rounds left, essentially. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 rounds left. Okay, so let's go through. Let me highlight the teams, guys. Talk about some of these roster constructions. Okay, so Lannister here has one of the more interesting constructions given the fact that, I mean, he went through the first 5 rounds with only 1 wide receiver or running back. Since then, he's kind of balanced it out a little bit more, but this is what I would call a very high upside, low floor team. Please let me know what y'all are thinking about that. But if you did have something where Kareem Hunt stepped in to a 3-down role in Cleveland, I mean, this team could easily win the league. Chilla, very balanced here. Nothing really to point out. Yield Fates, obviously going out there, just taking best player available, assuming that this is a real league, get some trade value going in. Highlight, ooh, here he decides to pass on quarterback in the 9th round, go with Irv Smith. Okay, so maybe that's some karma for us taking Mark Andrews in the 6th and allowing a quarterback to fall back to us in the middle of the 9th. Hopefully that's the case, but obviously we're a few picks away to see who we are going to end up getting. So yeah, let's kind of come back down here so we can figure this out. Okay, so now let's go through Elijah Moore at the 906. Jesse says, could take it down to a 30-second clock to speed things up. No, I think we're good as is. I mean, I'm just going to be going through and making my selections a little faster. Okay, come on. Let me get, we should probably be checking out different positions as well to make sure we have a backup plan. Okay, there's one player that I really want here. There's one guy that I really, really want. Hopefully he falls to us. JN says he's building a young roster. Okay, Terrace Marshall goes, so we get Mac Jones. Loving this team now. And like I said, guys, at the beginning of the offseason, I was calling Mac Jones a very overrated player in Dynasty. I understand. Yes, we have those videos out there. Me going, Mac Jones is a horrible draft pick. But he was going significantly higher than this. You can't blame me. I mean, Mac Jones was a player that was being drafted ahead of Trey Lance, given some speculation that he was going to San Francisco. So now that we're getting him here at the end of the 9th round, I mean, I really love this value at our quarterback 2 spot. Okay, guys. Also, if you have not dropped a like on the live stream, fix your life. Go down there, drop a like. Aaron says, get Carr or Mac. Yeah, no, we had to get Mac Jones there. That was going to be an easy selection. Maybe we could have made the argument that, I mean, both of these teams here had 3 quarterbacks. These teams only had 2. So maybe Mac Jones would have fell back to us in the 10th round, but I wasn't willing to take that risk. I think this roster construction looks very, very nice. Now we actually have a full starting lineup as well once we get one more player for a flex spot. Switchblade saying, Mason, I love your draft. JN says, don't you dare take Mac Jones. My man, there's no way Mac Jones was falling back to you in the 10th round. That was literally a 0% chance of happening. Drew says, Cam Newton called Mac Jones mac and cheese this morning on ESPN. I did not see that. Okay, so Odell finally goes off the board at the 909. So it looks like we actually have some running back values falling. I like the fact that the running backs are falling, and I'm saying not because it's going to make my team any better, but I think that these wide receivers should be going over the running backs the majority of the time, especially knowing that wide receivers have the longer shelf life in Dynasty. Okay. So let's see where Chris decides to go. He goes Michael Gallup. Fantastic selection. Wesley helps us out, drafts fast. He takes Michael Pittman. See, I like these wide receivers going before the running backs, to be completely honest. I think like this pick right here of Ronald Jones, I really don't like it. I think that a wide receiver would have made so much more sense, really any other wide receiver in this range. James Robinson at the 912. I'm fine if you decide to take James Robinson there. And yes, I know at the beginning of the offseason, I was saying James Robinson, a very overrated player in Dynasty. Please don't get upset with me for quote unquote flip-flopping because, I mean, he's fallen like 6 rounds of where he was going. I think now in the 9th round, at the end of the 9th round, at the 9th, 10th turn, I mean, he is a value there. Okay, so now Dear Future Self in West is back up on the clock. Okay, so he decides to go Jameis Winston. Derek Carr still on the board. That is an interesting selection. Cody says, gotta say, gig 'em, baby. Hook 'em horns, hook 'em horns. Okay, so let's go through. Kevin is sending out a dolphin emoji. No idea what that is about, my dude. Okay, so Jordan Love at the 1003. Really like that value on Jordan Love. I mean, I have Jordan Love in so many different Dynasty leagues. Okay, so we can be looking at a couple different options here. The thing is, we could decide to go win now. We could decide to get another player for our flex. So I think what we actually do is, given the fact that you start 3 wide receivers in this format, you start 2 additional flex as well. I mean, we go and we either look at Tyler Boyd, Rondell Moore, Robbie Anderson, Hollywood Brown. Really, I'm fine with any of these wide receivers. And of course, if we had our dynasty rankings up here, we could definitely make a much better selection where I would have more than 40 seconds to actually think about it, because with those rankings, I've worked on them for hours and hours and hours. But I think as of now, given the fact that we actually have production locked into this team with almost every single pick besides Mac Jones, we possibly go a little bit more win now. And I think if we were doing that, we end up going Robbie Anderson here in the middle of the 10th round. If we were younger, I think we go with a Rondell Moore. But no, we're going to go Robbie Anderson here in the 10th. Okay, James says, what about Antonio Brown? With Antonio Brown, I mean, the thing is, he's 32 years old compared to Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson actually going before him in redraft leagues right now. So I really see no reason in drafting Antonio Brown over Robbie Anderson. Okay, so Derek. Oh, okay, Kevin, I got you, Kevin. I got you. Okay, Derek Carr at the 1007. Really like the value of Derek Carr for JN. Mike Davis at the 1008. That would have been the player that if we were really wanting to go win now, we would have just got the rental running back coming in. But I think obviously in Dynasty, everybody knows that 29-year-old Mike Davis, who doesn't have really any guaranteed money after this season, I mean, he's just a win now piece. He is just that 2021 selection. Okay, so Rondell Moore goes here at the 1009. Okay, so we have 4 rounds after this. Okay, so if we scroll through, there's still a decent amount of players that you can be looking at. Corey Davis at the 1010. Okay, so let me scroll up real quick so everybody can see the draft board. I'll hide my little camera real quick. Ooh, that is the wrong thing. Oh my gosh, guys, I am sorry. I have no idea what we just did. Okay, hopefully that works. Like I said, I'm not a professional streamer. I'm just someone trying to stream fantasy football drafts. So, of course, we're going to have some difficulties like that. But, yeah, let me know what your favorite team is, especially if you're watching this as a video later on, because if you leave it in the comment section, then people who participated in this mock draft, they can come out and they can see your thoughts as well. Okay, so we actually have James says, what's the biggest mistake I've made at Team 7? James, your biggest mistake is the fact that you told me on Patreon yesterday that you drafted Dalvin Cook at the 104 in a startup draft. That was your biggest mistake. But if we pull up this draft here, my man, of course, I'm just messing with you. I mean, it looks like I actually like the team. The thing is, when you take Eckler and Elliott, you kind of commit to being a win now roster right away. You get a stack in there. You get a double stack with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler. I really like that roster, to be completely honest. Just know that it's a win now team when you do take both Ezekiel Elliott and Austin Eckler. And if that's your plan from there on out, I think that is a completely fine draft. Okay, so now Zach Moss, Will Fuller. Jesse says, I keep taking players I don't like in this draft just because they're falling. My man, that is literally just me in every single draft. Okay, Jared Goff going in the middle of the 11th. Another player that, I mean, you can make a lot of money if you think Jared Goff's going to be a good quarterback this year, because he has no faith at all. I mean, you shouldn't have that much faith in Jared Goff given the weapons that he has, given the fact that really he was very bad last year in LA with a better coach, with a better wide receiver 1, with a better wide receiver 2, with, I don't want to say a better running back because now he has DeAndre Swift. But yeah, the situation's worse and the coach is worse. And of course, his price is going to go down. Okay, so now Ben Roethlisberger, Melvin Gordon, Damian Harris, Hollywood Brown at the 1105. That definitely would have been my selection if he fell to us at the 1108. Evan Ingram goes at the 1106. I think given the fact that we actually have very deep starting lineups here, I think we kind of continue want to hammer in these wide receivers. There are a few wide receivers that I like, but I see one that I think we're going to be going for, and that's going to be Henry Ruggs at the 1108. Now, at least Henry Ruggs has an excuse for not producing last year. At least you can look at the injuries that he had. And of course, you actually have to be more concerned with those wide receivers that win with speed about their injuries compared to what you're going to be finding with someone that wins more off their route running, because we know those wide receivers that win off speed, they have a higher injury rate. So maybe that's something that can be predictive with Henry Ruggs going forward. But yeah, I think taking him there at the 1108 is good value. Now, Damian Harris at the 1110. I know people are going to be screaming that that's the best pick in the draft, but at the end of the day with Damian Harris, we have seen him before in a role where he steps in to be a starting running back, and he almost leads the NFL in yards per carry, and at the same time, he's not startable in fantasy because he's not going to get a single target out of the backfield. Okay, just trying to make sure we can show this screen where everybody can see what's going on. Let me possibly pull this down. Hopefully that will, yeah. I think that maybe makes things better for y'all. Okay, so Tyler Higbee, Robert Tonyan going off the board. So, like I said, I mean, we would definitely have been considering running back there if the starting lineup requirements were slightly different. But really understanding the league that you're playing in goes into how you're constructing a roster. Where if we can start 5 wide receivers on a week-to-week basis and we only have to start 2 running backs, I'm fine constructing our team this way. Now, when we get back up on the clock, I think we have more of an interesting decision. We can go in a few different ways, but we're going to be drafting Nicole Hardman here in the middle of the 12th. Finally getting his chance to be the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City. And going into year 3, we knew this player was someone that wasn't polished coming into the NFL already. He actually went into Georgia as a defensive back. So now getting Nicole Hardman in the 12th, when you know he's going into year 3, this should be his make or break year, and he's getting the opportunity with the best quarterback in the NFL. I really like taking Nicole Hardman there in the middle of the 12th. Mike saying that we should have sniped JN on Devin Duvernay. I actually would go to the rec and see Devin Duvernay very often. Of course, I was a small little boy and I was way too scared to actually go up and talk to him. So sadly, I never got to really hang out or talk with Devin Duvernay just because I am just a flat out chicken, and that's going to be the complete truth. And the same thing with Colin Johnson. I actually had Colin Johnson in my psychology class. I believe it was the second semester of my sophomore year. So yeah, kind of crazy there with both players. Maybe it was my junior year. I don't know. Actually, it was definitely my junior year because I was dating someone else. Okay, so Darnell Mooney, Nicole Hardman, Mike Williams. Okay, Drew says Brian is creating an interesting win now team. So here he has Harris, Alvin Kamara. Okay, so he has he's literally just been going, okay, at what position are we hitting? He goes back to back, back to back, back to back, where it takes Harris, Kamara as running back 1 and running back 2. He has some running back depth here as well. Elite wide receivers. I really do like Brian's team, to be completely honest. Cody says, Mason, it's a shame you aren't an Aggie. Literally, my man, 99% of my friends from high school, I went to high school in San Antonio, so 99% of them went to Texas A&M, and I knew nobody that went to UT, and that's a big reason why I went to UT, because I was like, okay, I don't want to be the same guy going and just hanging out with his high school friends in college. I want to go meet new people. So that's a big reason why I chose UT. I did go and tour all of Baylor, Texas A&M, and UT, and just decided that, hell, UT is the most prestigious program in terms of their academics. Might as well just go there. I mean, also meet some people. So we decided to go to UT. Maybe it wasn't the best. Maybe it wasn't the worst decision. Who knows what would have happened if I decided to go somewhere else. But it is what it is. J-Buck says, went to high school with Alvin Kamara, his friends, and his brother. J-Buck, you have to let me know how Alvin Kamara was. And don't know, obviously, I'm expecting that you weren't friends with Alvin Kamara, but let me know what he was around school. Let me know if he was just a complete badass in high school and he acted like it. I would love to hear some stories. Kit Kat says Colin Johnson on the Jaguars. Colin Johnson, yes, sir. Colin Johnson and Devin Duvernay were both in the 2020 NFL draft class out of the University of Texas. I can possibly, after the stream is done, go grab. I have a picture that I'm looking at above us that JN gave us at the meetup, where we actually have Caden Stearns, PJ Law, Colin Johnson, Devin Duvernay, and Brandon Jones all right there. But yes, sir, I went to school with both of those guys. And I also saw Sam Ehlinger a lot on campus. Okay, so Kadarius Toney at the 12-10. Ben Roethlisberger at the 12-11. Really like that value with Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, so let's go through. I think what we're probably going to be looking to do with these last 2 picks is I think we go through and we actually get some running backs, just those high upside handcuff running backs. I mean, we already saw an injury where Daryl Henderson gets vaulted up into being in the 7th round, and you can never find anything like that at the wide receiver position. So I think we actually start to hit home on some running backs here. J-Buck says, actually, I was in the game on his first play. He scored a long touchdown. That is badass, my dude. Drew says, not football, but played high school ball with Devonta Booker. Took our team to the regional finals his freshman season. Haven't been there since. That is really, really funny. Okay, so Leonard Fournette going at the beginning of the 13th. Okay, I really like that pick of Kenyon Drake. I mean, Kenyon Drake, I think, is such a good value in fantasy drafts right now. I mean, he got $11 million guaranteed. That's someone that you can pretty much bet is going to have a passing down role regardless. And on top of that, we know that if anything happened to Josh Jacobs, this is a running back that has been seen in a 3-down role before. So I really love getting Kenyon Drake. And another guy that I hated last year. I thought the price last year was ridiculous based off the small sample and him kind of getting inflated while he played on the transition tag. But now when he's going this cheap, I love getting Fournette there. Okay, so Antonio Brown, then Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry was an auto pick. Not going to bother changing that given the fact that we only have one more round left after this one. Okay, guys, also, if you have not already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. Let's try to get this live stream over 150 likes before we end it. And yeah, I'm definitely going to continue to get y'all videos out every single day, even when we're traveling across the country. But that's why we're only going to be able to do one mock draft today, because I have a long list of videos to make, a long list of Patreon podcasts to make, so we can have that content pumping out. And we had so many people join Patreon today. Let me look up real quick to exactly see how many people we had join the Patreon community. We're actually closing in on 550 people over there on Patreon. So we're going to be doing another $500 fantasy league very soon. So I'm excited about that. So we pull this up. We've had more people joining while we've been live streaming. Let's count the amount of people that have joined the flock on Patreon today. Okay. So let's go through. Oh my God. Okay. So July 20th, this is how many people have joined the flock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We've had 13 people join the flock. It's not even 5 p.m. I mean, this is going to be by far and away the best day that we've ever had on Patreon. But what that means is that means I have a ton of work to do. Now we are on the clock here. We are going to be getting a handcuff type running back. I think we go over and we possibly get actually, we're going to get Ramondre Stevenson, because here with Stevenson, we don't necessarily even know if he's going to be a handcuff. And the simple rule of thumb with the New England running back situation every single year is you draft the cheapest option. Love getting Stevenson there. If anything happens to Damian Harris, he can step up into a larger role. And we don't even know if he's going to have a small role to begin with, because, I mean, he was drafted in the 4th. Damian Harris was drafted in the 3rd. Damian Harris 2 years in the NFL without really being a very productive player. So who knows? Maybe Stevenson has a higher chance of getting on the field this year than most people think. Okay, so Raheem Master going right after our Stevenson pick. Yeah, I would never consider taking Raheem Master over Stevenson, especially considering Stevenson's a rookie and you know that player is going to continue to at least be a handcuffed running back over the next 3 to 4 years. So I definitely prefer drafting him over Raheem Master. Drew says, Mason, your Cam Akers video blew up today. Yeah, I mean, man, you should have seen me leaving the gym to go make that video. I was sprinting like a madman. I'm probably going to have to, I'm probably going to get arrested whenever I go back to the gym tomorrow, because they're probably going to be like, hey, we try to catch up with you. You didn't say anything. We assume that you took something from the gym. We're going to have to put you in. We're going to have to go search your apartment, because I was hauling ass to go do that Cam Akers stream. I mean, it was like, I was like driving down the highway as fast as I could with tears in my eyes, wiping the tears out, trying to get as fast as I could to stream. Nick says, Akers went at the 504. People in my league are barely offering seconds for him now. That is crazy that people are barely offering seconds. And also, guys, please, if you have seen a Cam Akers or a Daryl Henderson Dynasty trade happen today, shoot it to me on Twitter. I just sent out a tweet. You look me up at Build the Dynasty. Shoot it to me, because it will be in the video that I am literally about to record right now. Like, go send that to me ASAP. Send me a screenshot. Just don't type it out, because if you send me a screenshot, it's going to look a whole lot better in the video. Aaron says, when do you move to Tampa? My man, I am going to be officially moving on the 22nd at like 5 a.m. So tomorrow's my last day in Austin, pretty much. And yeah, we have a very exciting thing to show y'all in the new studio. Now, we are going to be ordering multiple different pieces for the studio, so it kind of sucks that we only have one of them right now, but it's the main one, so that is very exciting. Maybe I'll get some like plants and trees and stuff to put behind us until we wait for the other signs to come in. But oh my God, I cannot wait to get this set up. Like right now, I'm literally recording. Like I said, I've said this multiple times before, but I didn't plan on this podcast ever doing anything. I was just doing it for mainly fun as I went through college. So I was a college student. I'm literally doing this from my bedroom. So I can't wait to actually get an official space where we can go through and we can devote it to it. So here I think we actually just take Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis, I don't love him, but in the middle of the 14th round, that's great value. I mean, I definitely prefer having Gabriel Davis over Amon-Ra St. Brown because they have similar NFL team investment. Gabriel Davis playing with a much better quarterback. Gabriel Davis already showing us that it can be efficient at the NFL level. So yeah, we're going to be taking Davis at the 1405. Let me show the entire board. Let me hide my screen so everybody can see it. And yeah, like I said, guys, if y'all are watching this as a video later on, please go down there and let me know what your favorite team is. And also, if you're watching this right now, drop a like on the stream if you have not already. Okay, Carl says, seen Henderson for Akers straight up earlier. My man, send me a screenshot of it on Twitter because I definitely want to dive into that. Grant says, where do we send the Daryl trades? Let me pull up my Twitter. I'm just going to type in my Twitter at. Please send all these trades because I need trades to be able to go through and make the video tomorrow. I haven't seen how many we've gotten sent so far. I'm sure that we have some we can grab from Patreon as well. But I spammed my Twitter. Okay, so JN getting the UT trifecta at the end of the draft, coming away with Devin Duvernay, Sam Ehlinger, and Colin Johnson. Of course, that we all knew that's what he was going to be going for. Okay, so let's pop that up. And Austin Hooper going, really, the values at the end of the draft ended up being at tight end. So I think our Mark Andrews selection in the middle of the 6th definitely looks very bad now. I don't necessarily know who we would have drafted over Mark Andrews, but still, I mean, getting Cole Kmet in the 13th, getting, a Gerald Everett in the middle of the 14th. I really love the value on both of those players. Okay, so let me minimize this, show you all the draft board one more time. Y'all can let me know what team's your favorite. And then after this, we'll in the draft, we'll get those Patreon podcasts going. And guys, if you're in this live stream and you joined Patreon today, because there's a good chance that some of y'all did, and you want your Dynasty team broken down, please send it to me ASAP. Do not wait because I'm going to be recording them in about an hour and I'm probably going to be knocking them out for about 4 hours straight. So please make sure you get them to me. That way yours can be dropped tonight. Like I said, I release those podcasts the same day that I get them sent to me. But if you wait a little too long, possibly I'm not going to be able to get it out. Okay, but this is the final draft board. Take a screenshot, pause it if you want to see it. And I think that should be it. Thank you again, my dudes, for coming out to the live stream. And if you have not already, please go down there, drop a like. Let me know what your favorite team was. Subscribe to the channel. Of course, y'all know all the details. And yeah, that should be it. I will see y'all with the premiere.